Do you know what? It's been ages since I saw you.
It's been
Ages.
a long time. It's definitely in person. Yeah, it's been a long time.
It
How are you?
has. I'm really well. I'm really
Mm,
well. I mean, I've actually got a bit of a cold at the moment, but it's
mm.
one of those sort of low level. It's not really touching the sides. It's going to be gone by tomorrow, but it has. I've felt a bit today, to be honest. How about you? Are you in full
But,
fettle?
well, I took this week off to spend with girls for Easter, so like inevitably, as soon as I take any time off, I start to feel ill. So I felt ill for a few days, but no, it's been nice actually. It's been good. It's been good.
Oh, that's good. And obviously we are here and we'll talk about our respective causes in a few minutes. But now I know from what I've seen on Facebook with those your beautiful face looking sternly at the camera after you've just run a casual half marathon that you're a much more serious runner than I am. So
I
how's your training
wouldn't,
going?
I wouldn't say I was a serious runner. I run a lot. I'm not very good. Like it keeps me just on the right level of sane, I think. And without it, I don't know where I'd be to be honest. But I'm not a good runner by any stretch of imagination. I'm not fast.
Oh, okay, okay,
Training's been good. Like I run a lot. So
yeah, yeah.
the only thing that I sort of, because obviously I've done the distance a few times, and I've got my sort of my usual training routine. It's like I know I can do it in 12 weeks, and I know how to do it. And but then I sort of forgot. Well, not forgot, 'cause that makes it sound really bad. I hadn't taken into account this time that I'm very recently separated, divorced. I have girls every other weekend,
Oh,
which
yeah,
means that I can't
yeah.
do a long run every weekend. So it's sort of basically means I've got half the amount of long running to do. So I'm probably not going to have done as much distance as I would have liked to, but I've done lots of runs. So I'm feeling fine about it. I love London. I think it's a beautiful run. But I'm just going to try and enjoy. I hope it's not this hot because it's today. Like I was just saying, it's really warm in Norfolk today, and if it's this warm, I haven't done any warm weather training at all, and it's going to be brutal.
Yeah, I think I may be one of those who's passed out in the street if it's like that.
Mm.
It's funny enough actually. There's a guy who my wife Alice has had introduced me to because he's doing some work on the house and he is running in the
Mm.
London Marathon. And I asked him yesterday. He's whippet thin, and I thought, I said, "What's your expected finish time?" And the funny thing was, he went 3 hours 40, and I said, "Oh, blimey, that's impressive." And he went, "No, no, no, sorry, 2 hours 40." I went, "Oh, okay, yeah."
Yeah, no,
But
I'm
he
like
he finds the marathon
I'll
a bit
barely be
short.
halfway.
He finds the marathon a bit
Wow.
short. He
Mm.
runs sort of 100-mile things and so on. So
Mm.
yeah, he's
That's this
outside his
little
comfort
gentle,
zone in an
gentle little
entirely
trot. Yeah,
different way.
yeah. I think with the
Yeah,
London Marathon, it's about enjoying it. It's not about speed.
I completely agree. Or as I like to think of it, it's about survival. Frankly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you got your start time yet? Have they told you what way you're starting
I
in?
have. I don't have it to hand. I
Mm.
think I gave them a wildly optimistic number
Yeah.
some time ago, and my training
Yeah.
hasn't really kept pace with that. So I suspect it's going to be. I'm going to look like I'm standing still as everyone kind of tears past me. But I mean, I think for me, and in all seriousness, I haven't managed to do the training I
Mm.
should have done.
Mm.
But at the same time, I've always been very good at endurance, so I will persevere. I will keep going.
Stubbornness.
Stubbornness. That's
Yeah,
my key
that's
asset.
what
When it,
gets me around all of them. It's like I'm not gonna not do it.
yeah, no, I think
Um,
no, I think that is the most. If you run
mm.
distance, it's you can
It's
find
all
this
in there.
lovely groove where yeah,
Mm.
you're just getting it done, but it's in the head. It's completely in the
Mm.
head. Yeah, you just keep going. But no, I'm actually really looking forward to it. It should be good. But we're also doing it for our
Mm.
respective good
The
causes.
charities,
And
yeah.
so, tell me about yours. Which charity? First of all, which is the charity that you're running for?
The charity I'm running for this time is a charity called the Forward to Trust, and I've been looking to do something for a charity that works in the sort of recovery and addiction space for a while. And there's a charity I've sort of spoken to a bit over the last couple of years because from my own journey, I'm 7.5 years sober, ex drug addict, alcoholic, and so I want to do something that supported people that didn't have the friendships or the support networks around them that I was lucky to have. And the Forward Trust does lots of great work, mostly with offenders, actually, people sort of coming out of prison and helping them to find jobs and stay clean and sober and support their families, which is super important when they're dealing with addiction. And just give people opportunities. And their sort of core line, which I quite like, is it's your past shouldn't impact your future. And I sort of quite like that. Past decisions and sort of being able to move on and make progress. And I sort of have this sort of internal mantra, which I probably spew out every now and again, which is, it's for me anyway, it's one day at a time, one step at a time, make progress. And it's like, okay, well, that's literally every day getting through. So I thought, okay, this sounds like a good thing to do. And to be honest, I've been pestering them for a place, and they always haven't got enough places. And
Right.
and I was pestering them over Christmas. I was like, yes, someone's going to drop out. Someone's definitely going to drop out, because if they're under marathon, someone will drop out. And either I manifested it or something happened. And yeah, luckily someone did drop out, and they gave me a ring in February. I was like, I can do it still. I'm at the point in training where I can still do it, and I'll get around. It won't be pretty necessarily, but I'll get around. And any opportunity to do London Marathon, I'll take it with two hands, because I love that really.
So a couple of things on that. Firstly,
Mm.
you've mentioned a couple of times you're now implying that you're quite a veteran of the course. How many times have you run the London Marathon?
This will be my fourth London Marathon,
Right.
but only the third one on the course, because I did one of the ones which was during lockdown, and they
Okay.
sort of, I had a place in it, and you had to go and run it because you weren't allowed to do anything in groups of people. So you had to go and run it yourself, which really isn't the same. So for that one, I ran from like Hertford along the canals to the Olympic Stadium on my own. It's like, it's not really the same, but you get a medal, so I'm counting it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
no, I think you should. I think you should.
I haven't done
Yeah,
the
you should definitely
course
count it.
in 10 years, maybe 10 years ago, probably.
Right,
And
right,
because it's
okay.
so difficult to get a place. It's so
Yes,
hard. It's
yes.
so hard to get a place. No.
Yeah, I'll tell you about how I got my
Mm,
place in
mm,
when we get to my bit. But before we get there, I want to tell you, I want to ask you also about the charity. That's really interesting.
mm,
There's such an interesting corollary, isn't there? When
mm,
you saying it like that really made me think that the
mm,
sort of mantra about for people in terms of life after prison is very similar to life after addiction, because you're going to face a lot of judgment from the people around you. More so with prison. Let's be honest. I think there is
yeah.
a broader sympathy with addicts now,
Mm,
but still, you know yourself that not
mm,
everyone understands the kindness required to when they're speaking to people
mm,
who've been through addiction and so on. And I think, similarly, I think people when they come out of prison, it's very, very difficult. And so that's really interesting that your charity concentrates on that. I think that's hugely, hugely admirable of them to make that their focus. I love that, actually. So that's a very worthwhile
yeah, agreed.
cause. When I put this out, there will be a little QR code which I'll get you to supply me so we can get people to donate. So if you're moved by what Barney has told us so far, please donate to him, but not
Thank
all
you.
your money, because also me.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's just, before we move on from that though. You have always been incredibly candid on social media about your journey and the difficulties you've faced right from the start. Actually, I remember coming to see you when you were 6 months in. I don't know if you remember that
Yeah.
coffee we
I
had.
do. We stood in the courtyard with the business,
That's
just
right. That's right.
months
And
old at the point.
I
Mm,
recognised in you, because at that
mm,
time
mm,
you were really talking about stopping for a year. And
yeah.
I remember we had a conversation, because I said someone who needs to stop for a year needs to stop forever. And I think you knew already. Actually, I think you
I
really.
think I think I probably knew at
I
that
was
point. Yeah.
pushing on an open door there,
Mm,
but I was so
mm,
pleased to see,
mm,
and particularly in view of what you, because you weren't perhaps at that stage able or willing to be fully open about how difficult, how much trouble you'd been in, but subsequently you have. And,
mm,
as you know, I don't drink either. I'm also sober.
mm,
My circumstances, I always have a bit of a difficulty explaining this to people, because I am a little reluctant to describe myself as an alcoholic, not because I'm in denial or anything like that, but because I've known people, including yourself, who've really, hit the depths. And
mm,
that I'm lucky that wasn't the case for me. I got ahead of that. I feel quite strongly that I definitely could, I think probably, if I'm honest, would have ended up in a much worse place. But I just got lucky, I think, because of the circumstances I was in, the age of my children at the time. I'm sure that was a factor for you as well. You realise that you need to be a better role model, and so all of those things. But so we have that in common. But at the same time, I know that the difficulties you've faced have been considerable. So tell me a little bit about, what it's like, how much your life has changed 7.5 years on from taking that decision.
Well, just quickly on the first bit of it is that I was also very similar in the way that it was always, well, I'm not as bad as that person. And and that was always the thing. And I sort of the way that I look at it now is that if it's a problem for you and it's becoming a challenge in your life, then that's what it is. It's not about comparing yourself to anyone. Well, life isn't about comparing yourself to anyone, but in those, I think that's a lot of when you know, and I've spoken to a lot of people reach out sort of confidentially and have chats with me. And it's like, can we have a coffee? Can we have a talk about this? Because I want to very much part of my journey, want to be able to help other people. And by the point someone sort of said, can we go for coffee? They sort of know that they've got a problem, or that they know that they want to talk to someone about it. And that's the first door. And you can sort of like, I'm never going to be judgmental, never going to be, I haven't got the right to be able to make any sort of assumptions. I've done lots of bad things in my life, so it's always going to be like, okay, impartial advice. I'll tell you the good bits and the bad bits of sobriety, and there are both. But overwhelmingly for me, it's been a massively positive situation. The sort of the time that I've got back, the mental sharpness, the presentness. That's a word. I'm not sure it's a word. Presentness of
Tis now.
is now around the children. The focus of as we do, but it's sort of being the saying I'm better is quite a difficult thing because it's well, what does that mean? And that means I think there's never even possible way that it can be. I'm a better father. I'm probably a better leader. I was said a better husband, but that one's gone down badly.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that actually. You were trying to be a better husband. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
I would try to. I'm going to be a better co-parent. Okay,
yes.
Fine. Let's do that one.
Yeah.
Which way we are very good co-parents.
Good.
I think it's what it's allowed me to do now is I'm on a different part of my journey, and I saw this quote from someone. I think it's TJ Fat Tony actually, which is the sobriety is the beginning, and recovery is everything that happens after that. And the recovery journey is constant. And the last year or so, I've really started digging into what was missing, all of those sort of things. What was I numbing? What wasn't all the bits there? And that's led me down millions of paths and wormholes in terms of actually, is it a neurodiversity thing? Was it a relationships thing? Was it that's just the way I'm wired? All of these sorts of different paths, and I'm enjoying that and learning all those different things. But being able to make those decisions, make those investigations, learn more about myself, hold a mirror up to myself, which I've had to do a lot because it's like you don't get to this point without having made a lot of mistakes and probably hurting some people along the way, and definitely hurting myself along the way. And seeing how I can improve, how I can not take things into new relationships, how I can not judge people and what they're doing, all those things which I think are super important for my own journey. But you sort of do it from a point of view where, well, you've taken the drugs and alcohol off the table, so it can't be that now. It could be legacy, it's sort of a history of pain it's caused. But that's the good thing. It's like when situation's happening, it's not that. And that's good. And there can be a million other things which has caused that. It could just be there's a communication problem in the relationship, or there's something else to be going on, or you're not eating badly, so you're in a bad mood, you're tired, or actually the situation is just shit. And the world at the moment is really hard. And I think it's the more people say that, the world is just harder than it was. It's really hard for everyone. And if things can be going well, you can be having commercial success, you can be making lots of money, things, but it's still hard. It's like everyone's facing challenges every single day. And I think that level of empathy that I've got from going through this journey, and I think it's really helped me with my own sort of life and sort of running a business and being a parent, is that you never know what someone's going through at any point. And everyone's always going through something. And it's really hard, and it's actually being empathetic to that, and actually going, okay, well, how can we help support that, and not make judgments on things, and try and be kind. And I think kindness gets overlooked a lot at the moment.
Kindness is the most important thing. It's the most important thing. I couldn't agree more. And the other thing that I've noticed with what you haven't managed to attend one yet, but I know you've organised gatherings for sober people, which I think is fantastic as well. And I think the camaraderie of sobriety is very important. Do you still attend? Did you attend meetings, and do you?
I went to a few. It was never really my thing. I think it's actually what worked for me was the stubbornness. To be honest, it was actually, I'm going to say I can do this. It was a very similar approach to running. It's like, okay, I've told everyone I'm going to do this now. I can do this, and also this is live update on things. It's like one of my therapy sessions this week. It's like, actually, I think I sort of discovered actually it was a time of life, and my oldest Edie was about 3, and actually that was what she was bringing to my life, was something that was missing. And that actually filled a hole. And actually, that was what I was missing for a long time. It's like, okay, that was a bit of a light bulb moment.
Right.
That I thought it was all around work and things, and actually just trying to sort of piece these things together. But I don't really do meetings anymore, or I didn't really do them well. But there's an amazing WhatsApp group I'm in, which is set up by another guy in the industry. There's about 30, 40 people on it, all at different points of their different journey, and we support each other. And sometimes that's just as messages, just checking in on each other. Sometimes, there's this group happening in Cannes or Glastonbury or whatever it is, and people, and a lot of celebrating the sort of anniversaries of people's sobriety. And it's really, really nice sort of group of people, and no one ever talks about work. It's really just about support.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And it's a mixture of people that are agencies or production companies or post companies, and all just like, oh, actually, we're going to the Arrows. Should we get together so that we're not the only people that aren't annoying each other?
Yeah, actually, what you just said about it not talking about work reminds me of a brilliant line from The Player, the Robert Altman film, when two characters are having a conversation. He says, "Oh, sorry, I've got to get going. I've got to go to a meeting." And the other guy says, "I didn't realize you're an alcoholic." He says, "Oh, I'm not. It's just great for networking."
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But that is so brilliant. And as I say, I think your instinct for reaching out and helping other people right from the get-go has impressed me. I've been much more insular. I have, like you, I specifically sort of reached out to you that time, but I haven't done that very often, to be honest. I'm happy, and people do come to me. I mean, you kind of get the other thing, which I'm sure you get as well, where someone kind of just wants to have a bit of a sort of, they don't really mean, they have no intention of giving up alcohol, but they kind of find it a bit fascinating that you have, if you know what I mean. And that's, I'm open to those conversations too, but you can tell that they're quite different in character from the people who are really reaching out for help and advice. But I think it's just so immensely important to be available for people who need help. And I think it's fantastic that you've used your own experience to do that for other people, and that you continue to. It's interesting as well, because I never went to any meetings, and it's really funny actually, because I didn't know that about you, and I don't know why, but I kind of assumed that you were probably a Route 1 person who had gone to meetings, were probably still going to them. But stubbornness is absolutely the attribute I would apply to my own approach to it as well. It was just like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And, in the same way that if I decided I wasn't going to drink water for 20 days, or actually that would kill me, but you know what I mean? I just have that. I have that ability to do that, and I think you do too. So it's kind of interesting. This brings us back around to the running in a way. That this is
it's very similar in mentality, and I think it's probably, I'm not sure which way around. So I probably use some of the running mentality to help with the recovery, and sort of getting around all this the other way around. I don't know which way, but it's a similar sort of thing. It's like, okay, I said I'm doing this. I've told myself, I've told other people I am going to do this. There is no way around it, and it's not because anyone else told me to do it.
That's a really interesting point as well, because I found I'm going to end the sobriety talk soon, if anyone's getting bored of it. But I just want to mention something actually, which I think is because it's really interesting. And if anybody is listening to this and thinking that they're worried about their own drinking, there is a real tell, I think, with people in terms of the language they use around it. So when, as you did initially, actually, when you sort of say, I'm not drinking at the moment, it reveals something about where you sit with it at that time. And you're one of the few people who I think I have ever known who expanded from that point into sobriety. I think most people have another downward spiral ahead of them at the point when they say that, because they haven't yet reach that, I think in AA they call it the moment of clarity, which
Yeah.
I think you and I would probably both recognize as a real thing. That moment when you realize this is do or die, perhaps literally, and you haven't got there yet, and you know that you're still giving yourself room to go back to it, because you're not actually willing to say, I don't drink. Because that is a very bold thing to say, because it sometimes warrants explanation. So a few years before I stopped, I stopped. In fact, when I was about 28, I stopped for 2.5 years. Never during that time did I ever say that I'd stopped forever, even though with the wisdom of hindsight, I definitely should have done. That would have been a good thing to do and would have made my 30s a good deal less painful. But I wasn't ready, and I knew that. But when the day came, you really do know, I think. You really, really do know. And then you say it, and you say it boldly, and you are willing to have the conversations with other people where they ask you, well, why is that? And you can be honest about your relationship with alcohol, or in your case, drugs. Not my case, drugs. I didn't do drugs, Barney, just for the record.
So I did enough for both of us.
Well done you. Excellent. Yeah, but no, honestly, well done. Let me tell you a little bit about why I'm.
Yeah, so
I'll tell you how it happened for starters. It's quite funny, I think. Anyway, so last year I have when I'm in London, I am in an apartment in Canary Wharf. But weirdly, even though I've been there since 2019, last year was the first time that I was in London when the London Marathon happened. And so I went out to have a look, and I was blown away by the vibe. I love London. I'm not one of those people who has a bad word to say about London, but I couldn't believe what London was like that day. It was a different place. The warmth of the crowds, the encouragement they were offering the runs. I'm getting quite choked up just thinking about it now. I was really, really moved by it. And I was struck, and I thought, this is something I should do. I should participate in this one day. Anyway, the very next day I went to get my hair cut, something which needs to happen again soon. And my hairdresser, who's around the corner, he's quite the character. He's this big Iranian guy called Dastan. And I went over to Dastan, who weirdly has a Russian accent, and because I can only do a Russian accent. And I said, hello. He said, why you not come over and say hello to me yesterday? And I said, sorry? And he said, you were out watching the running. I was out watching the running, but you didn't come over and say hello. And I said, well, I didn't see you. And he said, it's amazing. Anyway, I'm going to stop doing the accent. He then said that everyone in his shop had decided that they were going to put their names into the ballot because they were so moved by it. They thought it was amazing. And then he turned around to me in a way that he's about 6'2" and he's quite strapping. And he said, you're running as well. And I said, am I? And he said, yes, if we're going to run, you have to run too. And I said, well, I think it's quite hard to get in. So perhaps we should look at, taking the charity route. And he then said, the deadline is Friday. And I said, is it? Because I didn't know that. Obviously, you would know that as a veteran of it. But basically, and again, if anyone is thinking about taking part next year, when I think there might be 2 marathons next year.
Might be doing 2 days, apparently.
Yeah, they're going to do 2 days. So it might be slightly easier to get in next year. But the deadline for entering is immediately after the race, really surprisingly quickly. So I said, oh, I didn't know that. Anyway, I said, well, look, I'll see what I can pull together, but actually, given that, you put your names in the ballot anyway, and I'll do the same. So on the Friday, about noon, I thought, well, I better get that done. What I didn't know is that by Friday, they meant Thursday into Friday, not Friday into Saturday. So I'd already missed the deadline. And I thought, oh, Dastan is going to be mad with me. So I thought, well, I better think of something else. So I started looking through the list of charities, and then I saw brain tumor research. Now, at that time, I had already been talking to James Rouse about his terminal brain cancer. And so it just leapt off the page at me. And I thought, well, that's what I should do. So I emailed them or sent them a message through the portal and explained the situation. Now, I think this is quite interesting, and this is perhaps arguably a tip for anyone who's looking at taking the same route. Because one of the questions they ask is, are you in the ballot? And of course I wasn't. So I said no. And I think if I had been in the ballot, I wouldn't have heard as quickly as I did, because I actually got an email, I think within an hour, from the charity saying, we'd like to offer you a place. And so from very, very early on, I knew I had a place. So really, I've got no excuse for the dismal amount of training that I've done since that day. But for me, it was really wrapped up in what was happening with James. And I don't know if you've listened to the podcast I recorded with James last year.
I haven't actually. No, I should listen to that.
Before any of this happened, he asked me to. He said, he would like to record something which, and this still sounds odd to say out loud, but he asked that I withhold it until after he died. He didn't want it to be listened to until then, but he specifically said, I want to say thank you to some of the people who helped me along the way. And so we sat down for about an hour and recorded this podcast where he talked about the people who had had meant a lot to him personally. Well, mainly in a work context. We didn't really talk about his family very much, which actually I kind of regretted afterwards. But he actually did another podcast with called Strangers on a Bench, which where he did talk about Lydia and his children, and I'm glad that was there, because I thought that was very remiss of me. But because our common language and our common experiences was work, it was naturally that. But it was it is I think quite uplifting to listen to, surprisingly uplifting. But I realised that was the cause I had to run for, and so that's what I decided to do. And then, it was, I saw James on a number of occasions after that, after the interview. I think I probably saw him around 8 times over the last year of his life. And up until the very last time I saw him, he was his normal self. It's a brutal and horrible disease. We had a number of conversations about how strange it was for him to know that he was dying from something that was having, on a kind of, he was tired a lot of the time. He was sleeping a lot. Yeah. But aside from that, the symptoms were quite minimal until the end, which is merciful in a way. But it's such a curious way to live your life, if you know what I mean. And it really brought home to me, and particularly then, how swiftly he, from the point when I last saw him to receiving the news that he died was around 6 weeks, I think. And I was, even though it was news that at some level I was expecting, at the same time, it was very unexpected. It really tripped me up. Yeah. And James was just such a lovely, lovely man. And, any premature, James, I think, was 56 when he died. It's far too young. And
far too young.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm losing my structure, but
no, don't apologize.
Yeah, but that's why I'm running. So my QR code will be on screen now. Please donate for this cause. I really only started fundraising quite recently. I actually, and being honest about that was partly because it felt like it sounds weird, but it felt like a very strange thing to be doing in James's name. In a way that I couldn't quite square, and I just kept putting it off. But I finally got going a few weeks ago, and so I've got some ground to make up. I have a feeling, Barney, that you being a much more organised person, you probably have a nice big number attached to your sponsorship now.
I have a strategy for doing it because I've done it a few
Okay,
times, which is, and to be
please
honest,
share.
most of it comes in last month, so it's fine. You
Oh,
know,
okay,
it's
good. Okay.
because
Well,
you start too early. It doesn't really matter. Then it's just ramp it up as you get closer towards the day, and then you'll get a big
that
jump in the
that
day as well because
well, and
people will see it on TV. And don't be shy about talking about it because it's really hard. You're doing it for an amazing cause, and people want to help. So don't ever be shy of promoting it. It's not you're doing something that's worthy and is hard
yeah,
to challenge. So it's a good thing to do.
yeah. Listen to what
Mm.
Barney said, everyone, and donate now, please, to both of us. You know, split your money. They're both brilliant causes, and I'm actually. It's really lovely. It's actually really lovely to catch up with you, full stop, because it's been a
Mm.
while, and you look so well,
Thank you.
and you have a calmer energy than once you did, which is great for you. And
Yeah.
it's interesting actually hearing you say mention neurodiversity. You're one of those people where if you tell people you're neurodiverse, they must just say, "You don't say." Uh,
Yeah.
I can imagine they
Yeah.
may have a picture of you next to the word neurodiverse in the dictionary.
I think
But
possibly.
and I say that with the greatest of respect as someone. When my son was diagnosed with as ADHD, the first thing he said to me was, "You do know you've got it as well, don't you?" So I mean, I also identify as neurodiverse,
Yeah.
but as in most things, yeah, I think you've got me beat on that one.
I don't. Lisa, I think this is a new journey for me as well, and I'm now associating some of the things with that I probably put onto other things as well, and that's part of the journey for me. Is it's not
Yeah,
really sort of a label thing for me. It's actually trying to sort of unpick some of the history and sort of actually some of the things that maybe I've associated with anger against people or things or situations, and actually it's just the way that my brain's wired, and everyone's brain's wired differently, and knowing how to process that and when to feel bad about it and when not to feel bad about it, and actually how you're going to react to situations so you can adapt to them. But it's also, probably because I'm neurodiverse, I like looking into things. So
but the
it's like it's
one
something else for me to get associated with. Okay, I'm going to learn everything there is about that now.
the one thing, though, that I've always been aware of with you is how dedicated a dad you are, and I was really sorry to hear that you and your wife separated and are now divorced. But I know that's not going to interfere with your parenting, and as you put it, it's brilliant. And I hope you continue to successfully co-parent because that's so important. It isn't. When I separated from the mother of my children, it isn't something we managed at all well, I'm afraid. So I've had the experience from the other side of it. So that's that determination you have to make sure that you're doing that right is it speaks volumes for you, my friend. And
Thank
I
you.
really hope you continue to be successful with that.
Well, that's it. The girls are the most important thing in my world ever, and the mother's amazing. She's an incredible person, and I'm glad that she's the mother of my children. And I hope that this is such an evolution of what the relationship is, and we can move on, and we can both be happier, whatever that means. But the girls will still be great. So it's the most important thing.
That's brilliant, and it's a lovely positive note for us to end on. But Barney, congratulations! I really hope you enjoyed the day in 2.5 weeks'
Me too.
time.
I'm hoping it's not this hot. I really am because
Uh,
it's
yeah,
great for the crowds. It's not great when you're running when it's this hot.
do you know? I think it's going to be. We've had
It,
so
it's
much cold
got
and rainy weather.
it's got it. Yeah, so yeah, it's because that's the thing. The start time's so late as well. If you're slow, you're starting so late in the day. Because I used to running at like 7 in the morning. I'm not starting till like 11 or something. So I'm gonna be running through
Right?
midday sun.
Yeah,
But
you're
it will still be
right.
enjoyable. The crowd, like I say, the crowd's incredible, and
Well,
it's enjoy the day.
I think what you're really saying is we are definitely going to be earning the money we raise for our respective
Definitely,
charities.
it's
So
really hard.
it's really hard, everyone.
It's really hard.
Come
It's
on,
really hot.
come
It's a
on.
long way. Everyone needs to dig out some money. It's difficult. It's challenging out there. It's tricky times at the moment, but this is something worth putting your hands in your pocket for.
I can only endorse what you just said. Brilliant, Barney. Thank you so
Amazing,
much.
lovely to catch up. And probably if I don't see you, I may see you somewhere in Greenwich Park
I
in
feel like
the.
I'm going to see
Yeah,
you disappearing into the distance, but
I will bank on it.
we'll see on that.